Yes, guys, I'm Si. Welcome to Cardiff City World. We are here, and it's now the Thursday night debate. And we're back here for Pan's had his holiday. And we've changed days in the meantime, but that's okay. That's okay. It's a different day, same thing. We have a few subjects to discuss. As always, it's never boring following Cardiff City. The games can be a bit something sometimes, but the day-to-day news and the goings-on, they're never boring. There's lots to discuss. As always, I am joined by the Greek League, also known as Pan the Man. How are you, my friend? You good, mate? Oh, that's not a good start. Are you there, mate?
Yeah, very well, Si. Very well indeed. Just back for a nice little holiday and refreshed and looking forward to the rest of the season.
Top man, mate. Top man. So I know there's a few different subjects that you would like to discuss. I tell you what, I will pick the first subject just because I'm quite interested in it and I see people debating it a lot already. David Turnbull, very early in his Cardiff City career, he only came in January. Has struggled a little bit, and I think that's a fair criticism to say he struggled. I think partially that's because I think the manager doesn't quite know where to play him on or what his best position is. But I think you also have to accept that these human beings. He's moved down from Scotland. It's a new area. It's a new club, new surroundings. It's going to take time to settle in. And I think everybody's hope was that he'd have a good pre-season, get fit, be really fit, strong and ready to go. He was on the bench again Saturday. Didn't do a great deal. And then unfortunately he's had to pull out of the EFL game in the warm-up. Like, I do feel a bit sorry for him because there's definitely a player there, but I'm not sure that Cardiff City are going to get the best out of him in the long run, just because I'm not sure. I don't really foresee him playing number 10 regularly. And now I don't really see him playing number 8 a lot either. So it's difficult to see where he fits in, But like, where do you stand on David Turnbull?
Yeah, I think, Si, it's one of those where I'm a little bit confused when he signed for us, as in, was Errol Bullitt the person who had an influence on him coming out? I honestly believe he didn't have any say in it, because I don't see anything from Bullitt to indicate he actually likes him. And what I mean is, he wants to be playing him, because you're absolutely right. You've got Colwill, who I've said it before, up until before March last season, that he wasn't really doing it for me, but he suddenly, I don't know what, he just stepped up his game, Ruben Colwill, and full credit to the lad. And for me, he's got to be playing, against Rovers. I know it was a lower level team, but he's got that quality. Yes, we can say about his finishing, but he creates and he does things up front in that 10 position that a lot of our other players can't do. And I just feel, like you said, with Robertson coming, highly regarded, Man City and Portsmouth, fantastic there. And with Ramsey there, I just don't see how he fits into us. And I just don't know. This is just all my own view. And I got nothing personal against Turnbull, but I can't see how he fits in with us at all for the rest of the season. And, I know we've only just signed the guy, but I think we could have one of those signings where he hardly gets a look in. And I do feel a little bit sorry for him. I'm not criticising him because he came late on last season, didn't really take, as you said, it takes time to bed in. But I'm just thinking that Turnbull, for £2 million, isn't going to get game time. And I just can't see, Si, how he, like you said, how he fits in to our. I mean, a squad is a squad. Of course, Colwill could get injured. Ramsey's probably only going to play 15 games. But Robertson's been signed to play the 8, I think. He's going to be there as the 8. Colwill primarily is the 10. Ramsey will play, a few games. But I can't see Turnbull getting a look in. And I just think, I don't know if there's been quite a few cases in the past where a club has signed a player, within 6 months has sold him. I just don't know, because there are plenty of clubs out there that need a number 10, in the Championship. And I just think we need to be very clever. We've been fantastic in this window for recruitment. As we've all said, our recruitment team have done really well with all the guys coming in. I appreciate Kanga's not up to speed. El Ghazi's gone back to Holland because his wife's having a baby, which, he'll take a few weeks. But I think, to be honest, Turnbull is just one of those that I can't see him being in the squad. And in the first team, definitely. And I just don't see what's the point of having a £2 million player if he's not playing. He's going to get disheartened. It's not good for his confidence. A few minutes here and there. He probably thinks he should be playing. I know at Celtic, he played a lot of games. A lot of Celtic fans, thought he was a bit lazy. I think they were quite pleased to get £2 million for him. But I just don't know, Simon.
So it's interesting to me, right? Because the kind of like the footballer side of me, not that I played at any particular high level, but just that side of me, like that sportsman side of me, thinks, well, Ramsey probably is only going to play 15 or 20 games. We've already seen that Ruben can get tired. So, all right, Turnbull has to take, because Bullet does bring him on, like he does play off the bench. Whereas if you look at like Alper Tanner last year, he didn't really get a lot of game time at all off the bench. Whereas Turnbull does get off. Does get games off the bench. So like that sports side of me, that sportsman, that competitor in me is sort of saying like what he needs to do is when he comes on for comes on for whoever, he needs to take the ball by the horns. He needs to do what he needs to do is what Ruben did on Tuesday in the second half when he was moved into the 10 and completely changed the game and completely stamp your authority on the game, create chances, trouble that he has to do something. And unfortunately, a lot of the games I've seen him in, he's very tidy, technically a very good footballer, but no one seems to quite know what he is. Like, he's clearly decent at football. I'm not saying, he's not a donkey. Like, he's very technically good. And like, it infuriates me that when he's on the pitch, he doesn't take the set pieces, because that's probably the most effective part of his game when you look at his stats and what he did at Celtic. So it's weird to me that he doesn't take the set pieces. It's just like he always. I haven't seen him have a bad game though, Pan. That's the other thing. He hasn't had a bad game, but I also haven't seen him be like better. Well,
effective, really
than okay. Like he's been okay. Yeah. It's never been
tidy player, isn't Side?
Yeah,
tidy player, like you said. Not he's technically obviously good on the ball. You can see he's got ability, but I don't think any supporter who's seen him have thought, oh wow, or he's gonna, because I think sometimes, obviously £2 million in the Championship isn't necessarily a lot of money, because how the market's changed. But for us, it is a lot of money. It's like Robertson now, but it could be up to £3 million. A lot of City fans are going, oh my God, this guy. Yeah, it's all on Pompey saying, their fans are saying how great he was in League One. But as you know, the step up is really big from League One, and he could be brilliant. He could be another Turnbull. We don't know yet, do we? So, but I think that's the thing. I do feel a bit sorry for the guy, but I just don't see. For any player coming on with 10 minutes to go, it's hard to make an impression, isn't it?
Look at Ruben on Saturday. Look at Ruben on Saturday. 10 minutes to do, and it's like, what is he supposed to do? But then what I would say, mate, what I would say with Turnbull, right, is I do think that the number 10 position for Cardiff at certain times can be an absolute cursed position. You look at before we made the subs on Tuesday against Bristol Rovers, the movement in front of the number 10 or the movement up front is non-existent. And it was only when Tanner, Evans, and Reindorf came on, when like Ruben would have the ball and there would be movement and pace everywhere. So he had opportunities to play people in. I saw a lot of people complaining in the first half that Ruben kept going backwards or he'd slow it down. But he was doing that because his choice was effectively try and beat 2 or 3 men and get crowded out, or keep hold of the ball. Now, if he tries to beat 3 men and loses the ball, the manager's going to bring him off, because the manager wants to control the game and keep the ball. So I do feel a bit sorry for Ramsey and Turnbull and Colwill in that sometimes our movement up front is just non-existent. and that has to improve. That has to get
Yeah.
better. And that was a big part of how we played well at the start of last year, was the pressing and the movement off the ball. And we haven't quite rediscovered that. I know we're playing a different shape now. We're in possession, but we have to have movement off the ball from the wide players, from the striker, because otherwise the number 10's got nowhere to go anyway.
On the subject of the shape side, you know, and obviously I went in the first 2 games and I have seen an improvement in terms of the passing and movement, but I don't know about you, but I'm still really disappointed with Bullet playing the 2 defensive mids. I thought, you know, he was going to play Siopis and then, you know, one, and then a more forward thinking side. I know a lot of teams play it, but I don't get, I wasn't excited by it a lot of games at home by having those 2 guys. And I really like Ralls. You know, Ralls works his socks off, and no City fan would deny Ralls, you know, it works hard for the team. But I just don't know. And I don't know how you feel about having those 2 defensive mids.
I think I said, like, all season, I've been saying we needed to get the right partner for Siopis. We needed someone who was athletic and gets around and will drive forward with the ball. Now, I am 90% certain that Robertson is going to be that guy, and he's going to be, like, he's a special player, but he has to live up to that potential, obviously, because he's a young man. I do think we will see a difference when he is the partner next to Siopis, because he has got the legs to be everywhere, to be that, like, what you want really is you want Siopis to be the destroyer, out and out defensive midfielder, and next to him you want a box to box midfielder who, you know, when we got possession is going to drive forward and link up with the wingers and the number 10, get in the box for crosses and stuff like that, arriving late, and then out of possession he just drops back into that sort of double pivot and lets the 10 and the strikers trigger the press. And then, you know, if the press is looking dangerous, he'll push up. And if it, you know, if they're playing through the press or over the press, he'll stay in his position. Rolls hasn't
don't you
got
think that don't you think Ralls and Siopis are going to play, and then it's going to be a Robertson or Ramsey?
No. I think it'll be Siopis, Robertson, and Ramsey will be the first choice midfield once Robertson is up to speed. And I think Rolls will be used for certain games. I think certain games you might see a flat 3 with Rolls and Siopis and Robertson just in front. Maybe even Robertson and Ramsey, depending on if Ramsey's fit and stuff like that. But I think we'll use Rolls more to see games out, or if we're having trouble breaking a low block, say, we'll bring on Rolls to try and dictate from deep. Like, Robertson is quality on the ball. He scores goals, he creates, but you've got to allow him to do that role. And the only way he can do that is to have a Siopis next to him. Now, what I think we might end up doing, to give Siopis a bit of a break, is I think we might play Joe Rolls in the 6 at certain points if Siopis is looking a bit tired or whatever, which personally, like, and this is only my personal opinion, I would rather see Eli King come in the 6 now and again to give Siopis a break. But I also think Joe Rolls can do that job now and again. But I think I said in the summer, once we get that box-to-box midfielder, Rolls will be more of a certain scenario, certain games. And I think Joe Rolls has got a massive part to play in Cardiff season this year, by the way. It's not me writing him off. It's just with a midfield of Rolls, Siopis and Ramsey has not got enough legs in it. It just hasn't. It's like age catches up with all of us. You know, Father Time is always the winner. So they've all got the technical ability, but we have to have someone athletic.
But then doesn't that mean that Ruben's on the bench?
Well, I think
if you've got Ramsey, Robertson, if you've got Ramsey and Robertson, you see, you know, I just think, has it come to the stage where Colwill should be in front of Ramsey?
No, that is a debate to be had. I think if you go off what Ramsey, like, it's difficult because it's Bristol Rovers League One side. I think if you go off what Ruben did in the second half in the number 10, and you look at what Aaron did in the number 10 on Saturday, Ruben was more effective. He had more legs. He drive, like, they are different. Now, Ruben will drive with the ball and bring players, and bring players to him to then release others. Whereas Aaron is more of, 1-2 touches, keep the ball moving and try and link up with people. In my opinion, I think we'll see Ruben. What he did in the pre-season game against Reading, and I watched pretty much all the pre-season games. And the one thing which is I've been a little bit sort of deflated by is in pre-season, when we had the ball, our shape was literally, we had 5 across the front. So we had the 2 fullbacks were like the wingers. Then the wingers would tuck in slightly to inside forwards, and then you'd have the centre forward. And then you'd have the number 10 and the number 8, whoever that was, behind. And then Siopis was just kind of sitting in front of or even sometimes in between the centre backs. So you had like a 3-2-5 in shape. And it was so difficult for the teams we were playing against to get out of because they were just constantly pinned back. However, since the league season started, we haven't quite, like they have been higher than last year, the fullbacks, but they have not been anywhere near as high as they were in pre-season, which has deflated me a little bit because I was excited to see that shape. But I would add the difference in level of opposition is probably a big part of that. Like we didn't play really anyone particularly strong in pre-season. With Ruben, I think, what I was saying is with Ruben against Reading, Ruben played off the right. And what we did is we gave him, I think it was the Reading game, I'm pretty sure it was. But basically what they did is he played off the right. But in possession, he was allowed to go wherever he wanted. He was over on the left wing. He was behind the striker. He was running beyond. He had so much freedom. And then as soon as we lost the ball, he would just drop back on the right, mark space, close the passing lane, stuff like that. But he wasn't expected to do a lot of defensive work, and he was given, like, he wasn't told, maybe like Tanner was on Tuesday, stay high, stay wide, isolate the fullback and beat him. He was given that freedom to just kind of go everywhere. And then I think it was Turnbull who was in the 10 in that game, just dropped a little bit deeper to create that space behind the strikers. And I thought it worked really well. So I assumed, wrongly by the looks of it, that we might go with sort of Ruben off the right, Willock off the left. I always felt like O'Dowda was going to play left back, even if Collins was fit. And then Ramsey would be the 10, but he'd play like a little bit deeper so that Ruben could just have a bit of freedom. But we haven't seen that materialise. However, the other thing I would add to that before I stop talking is it may be for certain opponents. So we may see that shape, but it'll be different opponents. For me, I think we look better with a striker like Reindorf, I apologise. Like we look better with someone like that who's athletic and runs in behind and is quick and skillful than we do when we play with like a Mate, an out target man. And look, Kanga might come good. It's too early to say. But like,
no, I agree with you.
I would just say, sorry,
Reindorf,
Go on, you go on. I just wanted to make a point about Alper Tanner because I gave him a shed load of grief after Saturday, which he deserved. But it was never personal. It was about his football.
No, go on.
I thought his response to a terrible performance in attitude, body language, and like performance on Saturday was awful. To come back on Tuesday off the bench and change the game the way he did, I thought that showed tremendous personality, tremendous mental strength to be able to just completely forget about what was a terrible day for him and go and change the game for the football club, along with a couple of others. I thought it was outstanding. And I think that is a good sign because his attitude and his sort of mentality was questioned last year. And when I saw that on Saturday, I was like, not again. So, I just wanted to add that. I just thought someone mentioned him. But
you're absolutely right, because I think a lot of... No, I was going to say, on the back of what you said, you're right. I mean, my worry is, obviously Burnley 4-1 winners against Luton away. We didn't have a good start. Obviously, I think Jack Clark was the difference between the two sides, to be honest with you. He was the one who got the free kick. He was the one who scored the second, So without Jack Clark, I think it would have been an even contest. He was the difference in my view. But in saying that, I just worry that, against Burnley away, is Colwill going to be on the bench again? I just want to see him start. And I just want him to get on and play games 5, 6, 7. We just don't seem to get it, Si, about Colwill. He comes on a cameo. scores. Will he be on the bench again against Burnley? You know, and then we're going to bring him on again with 25 minutes to go. I get Ramsey. You know, obviously he's going to take time to be up to full speed, but I just get frustrated, Si. I think, you know, Ruben Colwill, as much as I criticised him in the past before March, where, you know, I was questioning was he, but he stepped up, and he is that type of player. Really takes on board any feedback from the coaches, and he always wants to learn and improve. And yes, you know, he could have scored 3 or 4 against Rovers the other night. You know, when I was there, I thought, oh my God, you know, that one when he was clean through and he went to chip it.
I'm really sorry,
Bullet
mate.
said, you know, that was an opportunity.
Keep talking a minute, mate. I've just got a really important phone call from the hospital, which I got to take. Bollocks, I just missed it. Sorry,
of course,
mate.
Yeah. So I mean, so looking at it, I mean, Reindorf, again, I can't brag. Reindorf, the young lad, you know, 19 years of age. I think he was released by Norwich City. What a fantastic little cameo performance from the young lad. He looks about 32, but is 19, and he's strong, technical, excited fans when he come on. And again, I know he's a lad, and I'm sure Bullet, you know, will be looking to protect him as well, because you want to keep building that confidence. But I just think sometimes, you want to go with these lads, go with him as our main striker against Burnley. Kanga's not up to speed. He's going to take 3 or 4 weeks to be fully up to speed before we see the rest of him. So let's give the young lad an opportunity. You know, he looks so much promising on in midweek against Rovers. I know it's Bristol Rovers, but I just think I would just love to see us play Colwill and Reindorf against Burnley away. But I just don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing is last year.
The other thing I was going to say was, you know, looking at the side, I know you mentioned about Tanner. No, I was going to say quickly about Tanner, you know, what you said, that, you know, he stinked, didn't he, against Sunderland, and he just got the fans really frustrated. I think a lot of supporters, you know, reaction, get him out on loan, he's not good enough, you know, for the Championship. It's not what you expect in game 1, which it wasn't really. But you're right, when he against Rovers, you know, he really obviously took on board the feedback and criticism rightly as well. And I think for a young lad, you know, you can only judge him if against Rovers, you know, he didn't do anything. Then I could start seeing like fans saying, well, get him out and loan to a League One club. But like you, Si, I was really impressed with Tanner in the week. And I think for that reason, you know, if he can maintain that attitude going forward, I think that there's a player there somewhere.
Yeah, the Burnley game's really interesting because our away form last year was pretty good, and our away form at the start of the season against some big teams was really good. And we had a couple of smash and grabs away from home last year against some big teams. And I think one of the important players in that system was Aaron Ramsey. He scored some big goals. Do me a favour, Pan. Can you just talk for 2 seconds, mate, please?
Yeah, no problem at all. Yeah, I think, you know, like I said, Ramsey did play well. You're right, Si. You know, we had that great result. Well, first game of season away, wasn't it, against Leeds? You know, I think we were winning that game, and obviously they came back and got a draw. And obviously, I think most City fans, you know, were quite happy with the point at Ellen Road. It's not an easy place to play at. But, you know, obviously, I think, you know, that in the first game of the season, a lot of City fans obviously rightly disappointed, like myself. But we have got some tough games coming up. I mean, Burnley away, obviously outstanding against Luton. Massive favourites to go straight back up to the Premier League, probably rightly so, with the amount of money they've got and the quality they've got in their side. So it's going to be a really tough game against Burnley. And I think there's about 12 to 1,500 City fans going up on Saturday. Unfortunately, I can't get up there myself due to work. But it's going to be a real tough one. So Obviously, I'd imagine Burnley are going to get the majority of the ball, probably 70% possession. McGuinness is going to be an important player in that side. He came back against Rovers, scored the goal. Let's hope he's in that team. I'm not sure about Gutas. I did some research on the 10 defeats we had last season. And Gutas, if you look at a lot of the games we lost with Gutas, at home, Gutas fell over quite a lot. He slipped, didn't stay on his feet, and on set pieces, he was losing his marker. So I'm wondering, Si, against Burnley, whether we would go with McGuinness and Chambers, not necessarily the quickest partnership, but certainly, in my view, the best two at the moment. I don't know what you feel about that.
Yeah, I mean, with the Burnley game, I did a video about a week ago, maybe two, where I said I felt like Bullet was cooking up two formations, so he had a bit of flexibility. And he did start with three at the back on Tuesday, which was interesting to me because I thought, is he doing that to have a look? And because McGuinness played as well, obviously to get some minutes in his legs. And I thought, wow, are we going to go with a 3-5-2 against Burnley? Because we're obviously going to try and hit him on the break. We have to be defensively very, very solid.
Yeah.
But in order for us to hit him on the break, we have to have pace up front. So you have to have pacey white wing backs, and you have to have, now, in my opinion, I think you've got to go with Reindorf, because if you put Mate up there, you have not got the pace to do the damage. If you put, I mean, I don't even know. Well, I mean, Kanga, like, I think he might come good, but he still looks a bit off the pace at the moment. So in terms of the centre backs, I think we might see all three, but I would actually, if I was picking the side, I would actually go with Perry NG on the right-hand side of it, and then McGuinness and Chambers as the other two centre-backs. And then I would go with maybe one of the youngsters on the right-hand side, just for a bit of pace and rawness. They'd have to be very disciplined, and it's a big ask. But it's also, look, the Burnley game is almost like a free game. Nobody is expecting us to get anything from that game. So whilst I understand the point of view of, you can't put Reindorf in, or you can't play Conte because it's, they're too young, it could damage them, but they play without fear, and they're raw and they're exciting. And I think Conte in particular has shown at the end of last season that he's up to the defensive job as well as getting forward. There was the one game he played, I forget which one it was, I think towards the end of the season, but the team chipped it over the top. The centre backs were out of position. Phillips had switched off. The winger runs in from behind, and Conte could have easily switched off. And he comes right across, and not only follows the run, but he physically wins the ball as well. And I think it's I think it's essential that Errol Bullet is open to play in some of these youngsters. Not saying they play every game, not saying they start all the time, but I think they shouldn't just be, they're 17, 18, 19, they're too young. Because some of them will, if you play them, they'll just settle and they'll take to it like a duck to water. I believe we'll end up with Mate. We'll have Mate up front, Mate on Saturday, and we'll have NG at right wing back, play three.
It wouldn't surprise me, Si. I think the other thing on the back of that side, which is worth talking about, is that we've, after the obviously disappointing first game against Sunderland, we've now got the prospective champions of the Championship away, where 95% of City fans would be surprised if we get something from it. And then we've got the informed team of the Championship, Borough, who obviously are flying. And then we've got the Jacks away. So like we've mentioned, in these podcasts, or you have as well, is that after 4 games, we could be bottom of the table. And I know obviously it's a 46-game season, but you know what some City fans are like.
That's why I've been calling for patience.
And that's what I'm saying, is that I think we've just got to be, we obviously don't want to be in that position. Of course, we want to get something at Burnley, but and we've got, I think, genuine City fans know how long the season is, And yeah, after sort of 4 or 5 games, we could be in the bottom 3. But, you know, as I said, El Ghazi's not there. Kanga's not, has just come in. We're going to sign 2 or 3 more players, aren't we? Bullett's already mentioned he wants another striker, possibly a left back, Calvert Collins. There's going to be 3 or 4 new players coming in the next 2 weeks. The only thing I always say about this transfer window, Si, is, and it's on the, if you don't mind, it's on the back of this thing about attendances, is that, you know, first game of the season, yes, the excitement's there because we signed a couple of players, but Robertson did come in, you know, very late. So before that, we'd only really signed Chamber and Willett, but we all discussed that they were 2 quality players, better than what we've had previously. But I think as a club, you know, we've done really good business, and I'm not criticising it in any way, but season ticket sales are 13,600. You know, we're a city of nearly 400,000 people, 1.5 million people in the South Wales area. And I just feel that the first game of the season, when I went down, it looked like 24,000 to me, because there was about 2,800, 900 Sunderland fans. But there was 20, it was announced as 21,000. Now, if that was the attendance, that is shocking in my view, because if you take out the season ticket holders and the away fans, there was only a walk-up of 4,500. And reality is, compared to last season against QPR in our first home game, we've actually gone down nearly 10% on our opening fixture. Now, bear in mind, I felt, and I think you felt, that, you know, it's going to be a more optimistic season, a more promising season. The attacking coach has come in, but still there. There's a bit of continuity. So I would have expected, with Sunderland bringing nearly 3,000, nearly 24, 25. And if you look at our attendances pre-COVID, so this is in the Championship, our average has gone down by nearly 20% over those 5 years. And in the Championship, overall in 5 years, it's gone up 23%. So the worry is, and we discussed this before about what the club are doing to bring in new fans, we're not growing. We're going backwards. Yeah. And you know what's going to happen after the Sunderland game. You can guarantee that obviously Borough coming down next will probably bring 1,500 to 2,000, not as many as Sunderland. And it wouldn't surprise me if the Gates was dipping below 20. And that's a real concern. I don't know how you feel about that, Si.
No, I agree with you completely, mate. I don't know why that's just come on. Sorry. Apologies. Don't know what's going on with my things today. No, I think, look, I completely agree with you, mate. I think I was a little bit disappointed to see that. Like, but I can't talk. I didn't go on Saturday because I had a family thing and I didn't end up going. I was hoping to go, and it just is what it is. I don't think the 12:30 kickoff helps, because what you've got to remember, and I think what a lot of people are forgetting as well, is if you've got a son or a daughter who plays football on a Saturday morning, it is almost impossible to get to Cardiff City Stadium for 12:30 unless they have like the younger ones kick off really early, like 8:30, 9:30. But if you're like 10:30 onwards, you've got no chance. And it's like, you know, a lot of dads are involved in the coaching or helping with the teams, and so they can't swerve it. And I think it's that's going to be an ongoing problem. And I think, look, that's on the EFL, that's on Sky Sports for just making so many games 12:30 kickoffs. However, I would also say the grassroots season hasn't started yet, so that's not really an excuse for Saturday. And I do think it was disappointing, because ultimately Cardiff's business has been far better than I think anyone else expected, in terms of the quality of players signed, the organization and the quickness, the way we've done it, the stopping of leaks. Like, everything has been quite impressive with it. And I think, you know, we already know we're probably going to get at least another 3 in. If they're of the same quality, we're almost got a full 11 of new signings, and it'll take them time to bed in, mate. Yeah. Like the Sunderland game, you know, El Ghazi is one of his biggest signings and the one that's exciting everybody. Not in the squad because he's away with his family, because his wife's his partner's having a baby. Robertson, everyone's excited. You know, I think personally he's going to be the one that we've been waiting for because of the position he plays. Didn't get on because wasn't fit. Kanga, The striker we've been crying out for, not fit. So you're judging him, or people are complaining or not showing up for the Sunderland game or whatever you want to say. But actually, like, you're judging him on it's pretty much the same squad as last year, if not a little bit worse at that point, because he hasn't got the loan players he had last year. And he also hasn't got his new signings. So it's like, you've got to be patient. We all knew it was going to be a very sticky start to the season. And for me, you've got to stick with it and believe, because the board of backing him, let him bed the players in and let him do what he's trying to do. Because I thought the first 15 minutes against Sunderland, that's how I believe he wants to play. Then the goal knocked the stuffing out of us, knocked our confidence a little bit, and then it all became a bit last season-y. And then same at Bristol. Once we got some pace in the wide areas, I think that's how he wants to play. He wants to be solid. Don't get me wrong. He wants to be solid. He wants to build from the back, and he wants to do all these things. He wants to be patient in the build-up, but he also, in the final third, wants to move the ball, have interchanging, have, these patterns of play and stuff like that. So my thing is just be a bit patient. Like, if we're in January and it's still the same and it's like last year, then fine. People should, crack on if you want to be that guy who moans. But like, there was comments on the channel on Saturday after the game. And I'm just bring Pan back in. No, his devices. There he is. So there was people in the comments on Saturday after the game saying Bullet should be sacked, and I couldn't believe what I was reading. And you have to be patient. Like, I think that he is going to be. Just kind of repeat what I just said, really, mate. But he does want to be patient in the build-up. He does want to keep the ball. He does want to build from the back. But that's okay. That's a good way of playing when teams in the Championship press you. But then what he wants to do is he wants to have patterns of play and quick interchanging of passing and pace and movement in the final third. So let him get that. Let him get the likes of El Ghazi and Colwill and Ramsey and Kanga and Willock all interchanging and moving the ball quickly in the final third. The one thing that I need to see from us is in the final third, moving the ball quicker. I don't mind the patient build-up. I actually think a patient build-up in the Championship works quite well because most teams press, apart from maybe one or two who just want to stay up under all circumstances. Everybody else will try and win the ball. So having a full-backs and centre-backs who are comfortable on the ball and the keeper that's comfortable on the ball is important. And it's just in that final third, you need to just move it a bit quicker. But for me, I still think Bullett's the right man. And I think he's building a squad that can do something this year. And even he said before the signings came in, he said he's not looking to build this year and get playoffs next year. He wants playoffs this year. He's not. He knows that he's not going to get the playoffs if he plays for a draw every game. So he's got to be more creative and he's got to be more aggressive. But you've got to give him time to get his new signings up to speed. I'm in the side, used to playing with their teammates. I do worry that if we sell McGuinness, I'm worried that we might not replace him adequately, especially now that what's his head's gone
McKenna.
elsewhere.
McKenna.
Like that. Like if McKenna had come in, I was pretty happy. Not happy because I want to keep McGuinness, but I was happy with him as a replacement. I worry that we're gonna sell McGuinness late in the window, and then we're going to be left short. And what's happened then? You've strengthened a potential Championship rival if he goes to Luton, say, and you've weakened yourself by getting rid of your best ball playing centre back, or certainly one of them, because I think Callum Chambers is going to be an excellent player for us. I just wanted to ask you though, mate, if you were picking the team for Saturday, what would your 11 be?
Oh God, that's an interesting one.
Bearing in mind injuries. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. While you have a think of it, have a little think about it, because I've just got mine by ear now. So I'll put it up on the screen and you can have a look and see how it matches up then. But it's interesting because I do think everyone thinks we're going to get smashed by Burnley, and there's every chance we could. every chance. They're a very, very good football side. But I also think that we can, I think we can do what we did last year and play. I don't know if people can see that, but I've basically gone with a 3-5-2, but it's not an out and out 3-5-2. I've gone Chambers, McGuinness. So I got Chambers, McGuinness, NG. Then I've got Conte as right wing back, O'Dowda as left wing back, Siopis and Robertson as your kind of base. And then I've gone with Colwill and Ramsey off Reindorf, because I think Reindorf's pace can be vital. You can, Ramsey can drop in a little bit to make the midfield three and make it solid. You can give Ruben a little bit more freedom to get in the pockets of space and stuff like that. Because what's going to be important against Burnley, if we're going to do anything on the break, is when we win the ball back on the halfway line, like we did many times against Sunderland through Siopis, we have to make those passes count. And I thought Siopis was our best player on Saturday, but he did win the ball back several times, try to play a worldy pass, and it got cut out. Instead of just playing a simple pass to Joe Rawls, let him play the worldy pass, or Robertson, or whoever's in there. And but we have to make those passes count when we win the ball back and Burnley are out of position. And that's why I think you need Reindorf with Ramsey's guile and Ruben's sort of creativity around it. Let me just take that off the screen. But how different was your 11 be to that, mate?
Well, I really like that 11 side. The only, as I said, if I was picking a side, it would be very similar in terms of the system, especially away to Burnley. The only thing I would say is that, if Willock is fit, which I presume he is, I would not play him. And I think, I personally would not play Ramsey. I'd play Willock behind, Reindorf with Colwill. So I don't disagree with you in terms of that system and that side. And I like the idea of NG within the three, because I think he's very effective and he's very quick, obviously. So I wouldn't disagree with you. The shame of it is we always talk about these sides we'd like to see, but the reality is that Bullet is likely, and let's hope I'm wrong, is he likely to play the same kind of back six with Siopis and Rals, and I think the thing is, obviously, any side that goes to Burnley is probably going to get 30% of the ball. The issue is that obviously in the first game against Sunderland, we had a lot more of the ball than we did on average last season. And obviously that's the progress we've had. But do we take I like that system. I like that team you put out. I just say Willock instead of Ramsey would the only change for me. But Bullet is probably not going to do that. He's going to play the two centre backs. Maybe he's going to play Chambers, McGuinness together. But I just worry about that side. And I hope that side you picked is near enough right for Saturday.
So what I think Bullet will do is, number one, he will change my keeper, so he'd have Halworth in goal. And I think, let's even say he might play three at the back. So even if he sticks with the same system that I've just put, he'll play NG at the right wing back, I think, and then Gutas would be the third centre back. I think he might play Siopis and Robertson, but I think it's probably more likely the rules. It might be a bit early for Robertson to start a championship game as well, but I think he goes with rules, and I think he'll go with Willock instead of Colwill. I do agree with you. Like, it's not that I think Chris Willock should be dropped. I just think that Ramsey was very, very important to, if you go back and watch the Leicester game, which we should have won on the break, the Sunderland, I think it was Sunderland, Huddersfield early in the season, those sort of games where we went and did great away performances. Ramsey was a big part of some of those games. And look, I really like what I've seen from Chris Willock. And I think having O'Dowda behind him is perfect, because O'Dowda will get up because he's naturally a winger and overlap him. And obviously Siopis tends to play off that, the left-hand side. So when O'Dowda was out of position where he'd overlapped, Siopis would just sweep up. And I think, here's a question for you, mate, which I did pose to someone the other day, is Alper Tanner was poor on Saturday, right? And my biggest criticism of him is when I saw him in the starting lineup, I was excited because I thought he's going to isolate his fullback high and wide, and he's going to try and beat him, whether it's to have a shot or cross it. And every time he got the ball, he went backwards. But when I rewatched the game the second time, not once did Perry NG overlap him or even be in line with him, but wide when he cut inside. So he had his only option was like similar to what I said about Colwill on Tuesday before he changed into the middle. He had no options, so he had to go backwards, which creates the groans from the crowd, the frustration. And I guess what my question is because Perry NG doesn't overlap, and he tends to be more of that kind of inverted fullback almost that we see these days. And he does really well carrying the ball into midfield and playing it into the midfield areas. Do we need someone more like an O'Dowda on that right hand side who's going to get up and support the wingers? Or do you think Perry does a good job at what he does and we just need the wingers to be a bit more direct on that right hand side? Because El Ghazi.
Well, I may be wrong about systems. Yes, I may be wrong about systems, but I just think when you're playing a 4 at the back, you don't get that flexibility as much, because as a wing back, when you've got 3 central defenders, that's what the idea of a wing back is, isn't it? To overlap and sort of work with the winger on that side. So I don't know whether there's this thing about the tactics side with, you're playing 4 at the back and there's a bit of vulnerability if NG overlaps, the ball gets lost, and then you're exposed to the back. I don't know, but I just think I think it's a difficult one because NG did have a poor game. I think he was a 4 or 5 out of 10 at best. But I do think Jack Clarke, he's valued at 20 to 25 million pounds for a reason. That guy is another level to what most NG is not going to come up against a winger like him for 80% of the season. So as much as we were disappointed, in the result, I think there was a lot of good things in the performance the first 20 minutes. And I just think we just got to have a bit of a reality check and be level-headed in that there was one lad on the pitch who was the difference. And we've got to accept it. And yes, we've got a really tough game against Burnley, but, we've got to go into it in a positive mindset. I'd love to have gone up Saturday, but like I said, 12 to 1,500 going up. And I just hope we can get a point. But yeah, that side you put on there, a side that, would be, in my view, very effective against Burnley, other than Willock for Ramsey. And it'd just be interesting to see what he does go for on Saturday. Because I do feel a bit sorry for Bullet in terms of these signings we've brought in. They're just not up to speed, are they? And by the end of August, if we're bottom of the league,
pressure will be on, won't it?
It's the pressure. It's the pressure's going to ramp up. You know what? Yeah, well, I mean, and City fans. I think there's a lot of fickle City fans, as we know. That's the old saying. I haven't been down since John Toshak. And all that kind of nonsense. But there's a few fickle fans, and they'll be the first to say something. But Bullet knows that he's got 4 tough games at the beginning of the season. And we've just got to. I do say, the only thing I ever say slightly, different to yourself, and I don't dislike O'Dowda, Si, and I know you like him a lot, and I never criticise him for Saturday, but my view is, on that goal they scored, the first goal, they had 3 forwards on that back post, and Gutas was one of them to blame, but O'Dowda was another one. And O'Dowda is a really good player going forward. He can do a job going backwards. He's got a lot of experience. But I just think, there's a reason that Collins was going to be number 1, left back. And I just think that they do need someone else there. I know what you're saying about Louis Giles and that. I just honestly think if we want to be a top 10 side this season, we do need another left back. And I don't know.
Agree with you.
That's just my view. I just think I think on the right hand side with NG, Capaccio, and Conte, we're so strong on that right back side. I think that the amount of quality right sided fullbacks. We've got, that's why I'm thinking we talked about it off season, didn't we? About NG. Someone's going to come in. Yes, exactly. But I think he prefers. He's already. He's a bit older. He feels he's more comfortable in that centre back position. But that's what you're always saying about NG. What a club coming in for him, because I think Cardiff, if they get a good offer, they know they've got quality right backs. Whereas McGuinness, as much as we have got, obviously Chambers. As you said, if we sell him for 10 million and get 8 million from it, we've got to replace him with someone who's going to be as good. Because McGuinness were probably the first name on the team sheet with Siopis, and I just think if McGuinness goes, McKenna would have been a really good signing. But I think the recruitment team, if they do get rid of McGuinness, or they know that Luton or someone else are going to pay the 10 million quid, they know that they've got to bring in someone or already have someone on ready to sign on the dotted line before McGuinness goes. I don't think they're going to be stupid enough to say, oh, well, that's it, we'll take the money. Now we're going to have a look for a central defender, because he's got to be a first teamer, hasn't he? He's got to be, they've got to get a signing, and he's going to be playing in the side. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting one, side.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people saying they like that side that I put up. And like MJH119, he just said, like, exactly why I've gone for that shape rather than a traditional 3-5-2 is when you go back and watch that Burnley and Luton game, the only weakness that Burnley had was the little pockets of space between the midfield and the defence. And that's why I'd have a Ramsey and a Colwill or a Willock. Like, I think you've got to have 2 10s behind someone with pace. Now, as it stands, because of injury, really, the only option is to play Reindorf if you want pace. There's no other option unless you go with like Keane Ashford, who's got a dead leg.
And obviously Burnley side against Luton were playing balls over the top against Luton, and they were turning their backs, and there was nothing there. So Roberts played a couple of balls through from the right back position just over the top of the defender, turned them, and that's where a couple of goals come from. So obviously it's going to be an interesting game tactically on Saturday, and I just hope that he does go with that side, but with Willock in there. Because I think that would be a really dangerous team on Saturday to get something on the break.
Yeah, it'll be interesting what he goes with, and I do think, like Errol Bullett showed at the start of last season, that he is quite tactically clever. He did change the system and change personnel at the start of the season, depending on who we were playing. He would, bring Wintle in and put Rolls on the bench, or he would change little things because he could see where the danger was. And I think he tried to do that on Saturday as best he could with the personnel he had available, because he knew that, like I did the preview on Friday, the biggest danger was Joby Bellingham and Clark. And it was, you just didn't want to get turned around and give them space to run at you.
Jack Clark.
And if you look at the second goal, we just stand off Bellingham and give him time to play it out wide to Clark, and then he cuts inside in the box and nobody gets remotely close to him. And that's why, I thought Perry NG had fault in both goals, particularly the second. But I thought the first goal was down to Gutas. He got all turned around and lost the flight of the ball. And then Perry switched off and didn't get a man at the back post. And Robinson, by the way. But I excuse Robinson slightly for it, because he's a striker who's just in there as a body, really. It's the defender's job to defend. And they should have been aware for it. Joshua makes a great point. Callum Chambers cannot play 46 games in the Championship. If you look at his overall fitness record, it's very unlikely that he'll play all the games. So you've got to have options. Gutas, I still think there's certain question marks over him. And if we keep Mark McGuinness, my partnership as we play 4 would be Chambers and McGuinness majority of the time. But it all depends on, who can do this and who can do that. So Geraint is asking or saying in the comments, at the moment, he'd go for Jack Alnwick in goal. I mean, we've been saying for a while, that Jack Alnwick was very unlucky to lose his place in the side last season to Runnison, which was a disaster. And then Halworth. What I do like is that we've got 2 good championship keepers now. Like, I would play Alnwick. I think Alnwick is slightly better with his feet, and I think he's a bit more vocal in terms of commanding his defence and organising. But I'm not like I was with Runnison, where you're like, oh my God, he's in goal today. What's going to happen? Like, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm not like massively disappointed by it, but I would go with Alnwick anyway. Another comment, which is interesting. Joshua says, yes, CEO did a real good job on Job. He was quiet. The first goal was poor marking in general. The second goal was a moment of quality. And did you notice for that second goal, Siopis had kept Bellingham quiet. So Bellingham drifted over to the other side, to Rawls' side. Oh, I think it might have even been Turnbull playing there at that point. I'm not sure, though. But whoever was on the other side of the pivot, he drifted to that side. They didn't go with him. So he had that bit of space. He finds Clark, and then Clark gets the goal. Look, it was Ruben lost the ball for that goal, and it wasn't a free kick. But a lot of things happened between him losing the ball and them scoring. Bellingham should have been closed down. And God, Clark, like, nobody was putting their body on the line, getting close to him. Nothing. It was just walked into the area and passed it into the corner. So look, there's things to improve, but also I think there was loads of positives from the Sunderland game, because I thought overall 90 minutes, I thought we were probably the better team. They were just better in the attacking areas, and they punished us for mistakes.
Yeah,
Bristol.
Yeah, we
again,
did our research.
We were pretty decent. Go on.
Yeah. So we did our research on Bellingham side, because obviously the game in March when we lost at home against them 2-0 was the Bellingham show, really, where he just bullied us. And he was on the left-hand side. He just controlled the game. And obviously, you're absolutely right. You know, we'd done our research and we kept him quiet. The problem was that Jack Clark didn't play against us when we lost 2-0 at the end of March. So, you know, that was the problem. I mean, if he wasn't fit, it would have been a different game completely. And you know, as I said, he was the difference between the 2 sides. So, you know, we just got to move on from that and say, look, we're not going to come up against that type of quality for most of the season in terms of that position. Yes, they're going to be quality players at different teams in different positions, but you know, obviously we've got to look at it and say, yes, Jack Clark was the difference between the 2 sides in that game. And move on and let's see if we can get something against Burnley. I was going to say, Si, just slightly off the subject, I just want to come in the end and say, and I wondered if other fans on the podcast can enlighten me. But when we've got a season ticket just on the Grandstand quadrant, sort of on the corner of the Canton. And I know we discussed, you know, in the off season about what are Cardiff City doing on their 125th anniversary to, you know, obviously awareness, exposure, you know, all these kind of things. And obviously it was really pleasing to see at the entrance of Gate 3 Canton a massive, like, you know, photo of 125 years celebration with all the players over that time, you know, going back, I've got to say, all players, but, you know, the key players, like over that period of our history. Fred lifted the trophy in 27. Joe Dwyer, Phil Dwyer obviously was there. It took me time to see where he was because it was a young Dwyer, you know, around my time, like, you know. But it was quite interesting because obviously everyone's got different opinions about who should be on, you know, there. But I was really surprised because John Toshak was a legend at Cardiff City before he went to Liverpool. And I noticed that McPhail was on there. Which was a real surprise. And also legendary striker Brian Clark, unless City fans can enlighten me, Brian Clark, who scored the goal against Real Madrid, was nowhere to be seen. You know, and these are the kind of little things where I'm thinking to myself, you can't put all the players on there. You know, Blakey wasn't on there. You know, everyone could say, well, Ernie was there, Kavanagh was there. You know, those type of players were there. But let's be honest, in all due respect to McPhail, John Toshak, Brian Clark, different level. And if you ask all Cardiff City fans, best strike partnership ever, John Toshak and Brian Clark. So it really these are the kind of things that you do wonder what's going on. We're talking about, the commercial manager and all that kind of stuff. But what the heck is going on in terms of the engagement with City fans? And I don't know whether in the Ninian side that they had a different kind of, whatever you call it, mural or whatever. But I'd be interested to know with season ticket holders in the Ninian and maybe the family enclosure, if they did something similar with different players, because obviously I go in that entrance. And I was really pleased to see, what they did. But, it really surprises me, that some of our greatest players of Cardiff City are not even on that.
Yeah, I think there's like a lot of plans for different ones to be added and stuff like this. But yeah, I accept what you're saying, mate. I don't dispute it one bit. It's a strange decision, but look, I love Steve McPhail. He's top bloke, and I'm sure we'll see him soon in some form. But anyway, mate, just to kind of wrap up, give me a quick prediction for the Burnley game.
If I'm predicting with my head, I think we're going to lose 2-1. If with my heart, I'm hoping for a draw.
Yeah, I mean, I'll do my full tactical preview tomorrow, but I will say that I don't think it's going to be as one-sided as everybody thinks. I think we have got 2 good keepers. We've got excellent defenders, whichever kind of combination we play. And if Bullock can find the right combinations and balance and positioning in midfield and attack, I feel like we could pinch them in, because I also think that Burnley might have a bit of early season complacency, if you like, where they expect to beat us, and they expect to beat us easily. So if we make it hard for them and we frustrate them for as long as possible, try and get a goal, on the break and stuff, like, we've got some real good players, mate, both in defense and attack. And I do think at some point soon it's gonna click. And maybe it's too early at the moment. I would take a draw, though. Take a draw all day. But I beg people to be just be patient. Like, we all know the first sort of 5 or 6 games could go horribly wrong. But, we could pick up a 1-0 against Burnley and then a 1-1 against Borough and then beat those down the road, and suddenly everyone's rosy. So you just got to be patient and just let him get his players. And we'll kind of go from there. As always, mate, an absolute pleasure. I will say to everyone in the chat, if you want to carry on speaking about football over on Ace Podcast Nation in about 10 minutes, I'll be on with Rhodri Giggs, and we are talking awful pundits. We are talking, we're making our predictions for the whole Premier League, and we're also talking some of the latest transfers and stuff like that. I'm sure we'll talk a bit of Championship from last weekend as well. But I'm going to have a bit of a rant about pundits this week, because I saw several pundits saying stuff that was so provably wrong, and it just drove me nuts, because I was just like, you're getting paid thousands of pounds to do this, and you're just wrong. So yeah, I'm gonna have a rant about that. But yeah, it'll be a good show. 8:00 on Ace Podcast Nation, and then I'm doing a Burnley fan channel after that, about 9:30. But I don't think that's live. I think it's out tomorrow. But we will have a Burnley fan on with us tomorrow night as well, which should be fun. No transfer whispers at the moment, but I sent a text off just not long ago, so we'll see what comes of that, and I'll update people if I hear anything. But I think the club's been really, real good with leaks this year, which is encouraging, because for the last 10 years we have been like a sieve. It's been ridiculous. So that also indicates progress above the team, but it also indicates happy players, because I think people forget when players are unhappy, that's when you tend to get a lot of leaks about tactics and people arguing and stuff like that. Nothing at the moment on that front. So I think everyone's happy and positive and working, and everyone's pulling in the same direction. The fans have got to do the same. The fans have got to do their bit and get behind the bloody manager and get behind the team. That's it. But there we go. It's only one game into the season, mate. Thank you very much, Pan, for joining me. As always, a pleasure. We'll be back next week.
Cheers,
mate.
Cheers, son.